The Lassie Talks podcast.
Hi, I'm Yvonne.
And I'm Robert.
And welcome to Lassie Talks podcast, where we talk about how to build a better bond with your dog. And this is episode 12, and we'll be talking about toys, love them or hate them.
Somebody said to me that if the dog hates a toy, you could use a treat. Treats are made of food, and I'm going to talk in my health talk at the end a little bit about allergies, particularly food allergies.
Okay, yes, you're quite right. And you know, clients come to us and say, my dog doesn't like toys. And I suggest using treats as a way of getting the dog interested in a toy. Basically, we've got to find what rocks our dogs or floats our dog's boat, as it were. Yes.
Yes.
Or rocks their world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
What makes them happy?
Yes, indeed. What makes them happy? Now, the thing is with toys, one client said to me, but I don't give toys because they take all the stuffing out. And you know, the toy doesn't last very long. So they don't give them toys. They don't leave toys. And, you know, you can't see viewers but we've got toys all over the place, you know, littered on the floor, haven't we, for our dogs?
Some of which have been destuffed.
And that's half the fun of it. Some toys are very robustly made just because, you know, manufacturers have realised that dogs do like to take out all the stuffing. So they've made them really tough so that they don't.
Yeah, and I also think people have got to realise that you might buy a dog for life, but you don't buy a dog's toy for life. The toy doesn't have to outlive the dog.
Yes.
And just as children would have toys, different toys, and some would wear out, and you need to be aware that toys will get damaged, whether deliberately by the dog or by accident. And when they're damaged, please throw them away, because sharp edges, stuffing that's come out, and the whole thing's become a bit dodgy for swallowing, needs to go. Buy a new one. Yeah, why not? It's fun.
Yeah, and also what I say to clients is, you know, keep a box of toys, like for children. You keep them, you know, in the utility room or somewhere out the way. And then when the dog gets bored of the toys that you've got out, bundle them all up and swap them around. And it's just like having new toys all over again, even though it's toys that they've had in the past.
Yes, and, thinking of things that do get damaged. Dogs do chew, and their chewing can be quite destructive at times. But as we've said on previous podcasts, chewing is important. But chewing on something that might damage or hurt them is not to be allowed. So, yeah, throw it away. Start again. And why not enjoy buying a toy?
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Have fun yourself.
Yeah, it's great. Shopping online.
Some of these dog toys are quite amusing, quite fun.
Yeah, and there's amazing range out there at the moment. And the thing is, with toys, we can actually interact with our dogs with the toys. They don't just have to be lying on the floor. We can actually use them for training. So I say to clients, keep, say, your ball on the rope just for training. You don't leave it on the side, on the floor for them to play with. You have toys that you use just for training. You know,
so you have a toy that stimulates them through its movement, and you animate it and make it run round as though it were a squirrel on a rope, and you can get the dog's interest. So, you know, explain to us why some dogs, you put a toy in front of them and they don't seem to know what to do with it.
Well, it is a lot to do with different motor patterns and different breed types. I mean, border collies, because they and you've seen our border collies come and go. They're fast asleep now, but they do like movement. They do, and they were bred to round up the sheep, pen the sheep, stalk the sheep, so they've got the eye orientation, creep, and you can and they seem to be hardwired just to play like that, and that's why the playing with a fuzzy toy on the end of a rope. There's loads of makes out there, and just to wiggle it along. It seems to turn on something in their brain, something they're inherently wired to do, that we've bred them to be useful to us. So it's really bad if we don't use that, because a dog that's got these instincts, they can get very bored, very frustrated if you don't use and fill up their hedonic budget that they need for playing games.
And frustrated dog is one that will perhaps start doing things that you rather it didn't do.
Yes.
Chew the furniture or something along those lines.
Yeah, it chooses maladaptive behaviours in order to cope with their
So the
stress.
function of the toy is to stimulate the dog and to give it an interest.
Yes, absolutely. So, but with the dog that we've got the rustle of paper there. Don't worry, it's our blinds. But yeah, the smaller dog that is bred more for ratting, say, okay, they have a different enjoyment in a different way.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking of our big dog. The way she plays with the toy is completely different to the way the collies would play with it.
Yes, she tends to.
I mean, there's some crossover, but
Yeah, she's not a border collie.
She's not a border collie, she plays in a different way.
Yeah, you can throw a ball. A border collie seems to instantly know to chase after ball, pick it up, and
well, lots of other dogs do that as well. Balls are a very popular toy for.
Yeah.
Can I just interject here
Yep.
about balls and teeth?
Oh, right.
Tennis balls.
Yeah.
Be careful when you're using tennis balls, because a dog that uses them a lot will have worn down teeth.
Yes, that's right. It's the fuzzy one.
Yeah, the fuzzy one. So perhaps better to have a rubberized ball, or other structure that is not going to wear their teeth down. Just a little point.
Yeah.
Toy safety is important, as I've already said.
And it's something that is repetitive. Where they
absolutely
chew it
chewing
to
on
squeak,
it and that sort of thing,
and it makes it squeak. So they chew it.
If it's a squeaker one,
yeah. Well, that's they like the sound of it, and they squeak.
Well, talking of squeaking, because a lot of these toys have the sort of plastic insert squeaker. I've noticed our dogs quite enjoy pulling the toy apart to get to the squeaker, to pull the squeaker out.
Yeah.
And of course, when they've chewed the squeaker a bit, it stops squeaking. They seem to lose interest now. That's just a thought that these squeakers, although fairly safe, do watch them. If your dog's like ours and gets the squeaker out, make sure it doesn't swallow it, because it'll be a trip to the vets and a very expensive
I think
trip.
they've been good lately. They don't have the metal bit in the squeak anymore. I've noticed that they've changed that in the manufacture of these toys. But the thing is, with that, the reason why they are dissecting it is all to do with the part of the motor pattern that for hunting. It's oriented on their prey. Stalk their prey, chase their prey, bite their prey, dissect the prey, and that's why you get dissection of toys, and then eat the prey, and we don't want them to eat the squeaker. But this is all good for them. And so I think the people that say their dogs don't like toys is often because they've actually not had the opportunity, in honesty, to play with toys as they would like to play with them, which is to pull them apart.
I think the other thing is that, dogs, if it's a toy that's just an inanimate object, if you can animate it by playing with the toy yourself, with the dog, you'll get far more interaction, and obviously that helps improve the bond between you and the dog, because you become part of the play game that dogs certainly like to do.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes I cringe. But I mean, there's lots of lovely toys out there, and I don't want to, say something to someone, don't get this toy. But just remember that if you've got, say, like a tuggy toy that's, that attaches to something like a tree or something like that, that actually they're playing with a tree, and so that the value of that play is not directed onto you. I mean, it's getting a balance, isn't it? Of having toys around that they can play with, but don't forget to also play with your dog.
Yeah, absolutely important, isn't it? And that is a strong way of bonding the dog with you.
Yeah.
And it also can be quite fun.
Yeah.
You talk about tuggy toys. A lot of people I know we've spoken to over the years can get a little bit worried that a dog that likes to pull at a toy, and you pull at the other end, can become a possessive dog and pull
or
things
even
away.
aggressive.
Or even aggressive.
Yeah.
So what's your advice there?
Yeah, I've heard, and I know vets would say to someone, don't teach the tug game. And I think if you haven't got the skills, and it's all about mechanics, and this is where I say, invest in a good dog school, there are rules attached to the game. It's just like playing a board game with your children. You don't want them to have a tantrum and knock all off the pieces, and it's building up that bond and saying, right, I'm starting the game. And for the reluctant tuggers, I actually, get them just to sniff the toy. They then clicked, or you say click a word like yes. And that's all about conditioning the dog to respond to a clicker or to a clicker word, that a treat is coming. As soon as you click, they know a treat is coming. So they sniff the toy, then you click, say yes, use a clicker word, and then give them a treat. And then you just wait. And then they put their mouth round it and you go, yes. And, so you're teaching the dog to mouth that toy and to enjoy it. This is called shaping, by the way, in dog training terms. And then the dog might lift the toy up, and you've still got hold of the other side of the tug, and you go, yes, and then treat and feed. And then the dog might then try to take it off you, but you hold on to it and you get a bit of a tug and you go, yes, give it a treat. So you're using treats to actually, get that behaviour.
So a dog that's not interested in a toy, you would use a treat to get the interest in the toy and then transfer that onto the toy itself.
Yeah.
And make the toy work in the way.
Yeah, and then you've got more things in your toolkit when you're training to actually, say if you're out and you haven't got a treat on you, you can use a game with, if you've got a tug in your pocket, tug it in your pocket. I say like that because I have a back pocket on my coat.
Especially for
toys. Putting in toys. I go out on a walk with toys in my back pocket. It's it's using other things than treats. Just to and also it's so much better for your dog that's got, lots and lots of energy to use these toys and games to get rid of that energy that they've got. And I mean, people say to me, oh, well, I need to go for a 3-mile hike. But actually, if you play with your dog and toys and puzzles and all this sort of thing, that actually, you actually tire a dog out as much with the brain games, if you like.
Yeah, mental stimulation is as important, if not more important, as straightforward
Yeah.
exercise and going for a long walk.
Yeah. And also
as we've said before, people can go for a walk and be totally detached, and whether the dog's there or not seems to be neither here nor there. And the dog just wanders off and does its own thing. But of course, what you should be doing is interacting with your dog so that you are bonding the dog with you, and the dog is more likely to stay with you on the walk.
Yeah, and also because out on long walks, your dog might actually, have a time where it's had a veterinary procedure and it can't go out for a long walk. And then you're absolutely stuffed, if you like, if you've got a dog that relies on just a walk, for it to get rid of that extra energy. In fact, if you use their brains and use brain games with toys, you can tire them out just as much. So, you don't have to panic if you can't physically take them out for a walk.
Yes, and there are puzzle toys, and you can do scent games. There is a whole host of things that you can do that can stimulate, amuse, and tire your dog out without it having to go on a long walk.
Yeah, and one of our favourite toys is one of these where you stuff food into a pouch, and I leave a trail around the house or indeed out in the garden, and the dog goes out and finds that pouch, and they get a jackpot of treats when they get there. It's a safe pouch done up with Velcro. It's a good game to play.
Yeah, and stimulates their scent parts of their brain, which is quite extensive in a dog. So very stimulating.
Yeah.
And when you talk about treats, you are using treats together with toys. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
No, that's the thing. It's interacting with both, because you can make a treat like a toy. Because when you throw a treat out and it rolls along like a little mouse, really, and the dog goes to catch it and has actually is able to eat it. So it is a toy. You can use food like a toy where you throw it out, and it's great things to play. I like to play with my dogs, as you know. When we stop for coffee break, we actually, play the chase the treat game. And then what we do is we use it as a reinforcer, and we use the Premack principle.
Premack principle. Can you explain that to our listeners and viewers?
Well, it's getting the dog to do a behaviour that is less likely to do in order to get what they want. So, for example, a child being told to eat its greens before he gets its ice cream. So what I ask my dogs to do, I stick the kettle on, and I ask them to do, a behaviour, perhaps one that they've, obviously one that they've already been taught before, like a sit or a down, or a stand, or
something more complex.
Or something more complex, like a twist or weave in your legs. And then you throw the food out and they get the food that they wanted. So, it's great. Or you can leave the food in a bowl, and when you've taught them the mouse game where they leave the food until you tell them to get it, you get the dog to do a sit and a down and go, get it, and they can rush out and you've placed a piece of food in the bowl. And it's all that sort of, playing and having those interactions with your dog. And you can then do it with a toy. Once you've taught that, you could just place the toy out, ask them to do a sit or a down, and then go, get it. And they go and get that toy and then bring it back to you, and then they can have, a good tug it game. And we'll put on our website some instructions for this.
Good,
I think,
good, because sometimes, it can
but
it needs a bit of instructing, can't it?
Well, we're discussing the principles, really, of, toys do we love them or hate them, and what we can do about that, and how we can counteract that sort of feeling that, oh dear, I can't use a toy because they're just not interested, and how we can actually transfer the value of food onto a toy. And vice versa, you might have a dog that doesn't like treats either.
Well, yeah, that's the other side of the coin. So there must be something they like to eat, otherwise they wouldn't be doing well. So you've got to find what that is.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, this is where, you can go out and get loads and loads of different sorts of treats that are really tasty. We call it high value treats, but they're not high in particularly monetary value, but they are actually valued. So you've got to find out what your dog enjoys to eat.
Yeah, something nice and tasty.
But at this point, we've got to point out about allergies.
Yeah, now some dogs will react to certain foods, and one of the problems that we can end up with is that when we reach for a treat, whether that's one bought or one that we're using out of our own kitchen, so to speak, we can end up inadvertently picking the ingredients that a dog might be allergic to. So food allergies, and this is my little health tip, you get to know your dog, and there are very few dogs that don't have some intolerance to some foods, and some dogs are downright allergic to them. So even a slight amount, we've
just like with humans and
peanuts and things like that, even a small quantity can cause severe upset. Now, severe upsets in dogs is usually manifest either as gastrointestinal, usually as diarrhea, sometimes vomiting, but usually diarrhea, or you get a skin problem. And it's quite recognised that there are a number of things in food that can, in individuals, stimulate allergies. So again, when you're choosing a treat, your dog might like it, but it might not like it. I'll say that again. It might not like the dog.
Yeah.
So we've got to be just a little bit cautious.
Yeah. Okay. So salty foods and things like that.
Well, yes, there's a great temptation to overdo treats as well if they're of one sort. So if you, say, used a bit of cheese, now a dog that might be intolerant to lactose, that could, if there's enough cheese, cause that dog to have an upset tummy. Or it might just be that the treat is very rich. So I think your advice has often been to use the dog's regular diet as part of the treating that you use, and then you have just a small quantity of very rich or tasty food that you use for special occasions and for really boosting up the value.
Yeah. So if you've not got many environmental distractions and they're not, high value,
you're doing your basic training in the house
with their kibble.
You could use their diet. We've talked about using a proportion of their diet each day as treats, so they have to work for it.
And then use the higher value and perhaps the richer foods. We use chicken necks, for example, which has got quite a high fat content.
Yeah.
So we use that a bit more sparingly.
You would use it very sparingly because what you don't want to is precipitate either upsets or more serious conditions. So yeah, be careful.
Okay. On that note, we'll call it to close. So do go to our website lassietalks.com, and actually we will be talking further on different health tips in further episodes of our podcast, and of course we're on Facebook too.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Lassie Talks. If you would like to get in touch or have any questions, then please visit lassietalks.com or visit our Facebook and YouTube page. Every dog has a Lassie's heart. So remember, we need to make our homes the best place for our dogs to be. See you soon at the next episode of Lassie Talks. Lassie Talks was recorded and produced at Monkey Nut Audiobooks.